topics that keep bubbling up in conversations industry-wide. Couple of them that just keep coming up. Burnout, exhaustion, dealing with the daily and unrelenting chaos. Listen, these feelings are coming from the stresses caused by the constant price increases, subscription increases, the lost art of customer service, and yes, the overall chaos caused by a litany of factors, and you know what I'm talking about. I say, you know what I'm talking about, instead of saying it because a couple of reasons. Yeah, I'm sick of talking about it. I'm sick of thinking about it. And I want to feel like I did back in 2022. That was a good year. The pandemic was behind us and blue skies ahead. So you're tired. Yeah, me too. The thing that recharges my batteries, the interpersonal conversations that you hear every week on this show. I started Convo by Design to tell the stories behind design, to showcase the very design that makes me happy. It's that feeling I used to get. I don't know if you used to have this too, or if you still do maybe, but this feeling I used to have when a new issue of my favorite trade pub, Metropolitan Home, arrived in the mail. It would be sitting there in the mailbox. I would spend a minute after retrieving it, just looking at the cover through the poly bag. I would spend a minute trying to imagine what would be in there. Then I would save it, force the anticipation to build, then put it down for a while and come back when I had at least a full hour or more to really dig in. I read the editor's letter, the pub note, the masthead, scoured the ads, cover to cover. I still have copies of them from those days. And occasionally I will still go back and pick one up and look through it. I've got Met Home. I've got some ADs back when AD actually covered design and architecture. I would have copies of Dwell, I want to say from the 2010s into the early teens, and maybe a few before. I would scour the ads. Did you know that the advertising is really the best way to determine the forthcoming trends? The marketing, not the editorial, that's where you learn about future thought. By the time the editorial is published, that's what was happening 3 months to 2 years ago as these projects were being completed. So it's the anticipation, it's the consumption of information in the format that we choose. It's relaxing, it's invigorating, it's recharging. I don't think I've ever spoken with you about how I hope to use Convo by Design. This show is offered as both product and service. My hope is that you will take me with you on your walks, runs, trips to discover at local design centers or at the airport as you're on your way to the next big event, as you're excited, as you're looking forward to it, as you're thinking about what you're going to discover and what you're going to do. I tell you this in support of the conversation you're about to hear with Lauren Reyes Lim, principal and founder of LVR Studios. Lauren's work and that of her firm is both throwback and futuristic in thought and delivery. Pattern, color, texture, styling, and presentation. That is very much how this chat goes as well. And I hope you enjoy it. And I hope that you can use Convo by Design to help recharge your batteries a little bit, because I know we all need it. And to be our best creatively, we have to have clear eyes, full heart, and a willingness to engage. So I hope you enjoy it. It's coming up right after this. At the highest level of design, the absolute best specifying designers, architects, landscape designers are all highly focused on the technology and performance of products and materials today. You have to, because the products you specify for your projects have to perform and they have to last. That's one of the reasons why I am so proud to be working with TimberTech. Their focus on the technical renaissance of synthetic decking is literally changing the conversation about innovation and performance. It pulls focus on three priorities homeowners have and expect from the products their designers and architects specify for their luxury projects. 1. Aesthetics must match the overall design and fit visually. 2. Durability and maintenance. I've told you about my board flipping stories from my own wood decks. Clients not only want beauty, but they want ease and ease of use, and they want it to last for decades. 3. Sustainably made. Clients are more conscious of the environment now, and they want the same of their materials. TimberTech hits each one of these elements with a product that not only meets expectations, they exceed them. TimberTech makes a synthetic decking that looks just like wood, color and embossed wood grain for a natural appearance. Their composite decking is technologically superior, as it has been created to last for decades, and it's manufactured with up to 85% recycled material. Their advanced PVC, vintage, and landmark collections have a Class A flame spread rating, making these products an amazing choice for wildfire-prone areas, which unfortunately continues to grow on the risk map. Check the show notes for more information about this and to find the nearest showroom or lumberyard where you can find TimberTech, or you can check them out directly, timbertech.com. It's weird because born and raised in Los Angeles, grew up in the Valley, and I've told this story before. It was 1983, and it was a Saturday. I had just come home from a Pee Wee football game, and we lived in Chatsworth, up by Santa Susana Pass.
Yeah.
And within, no internet at the time, and within probably 10 or 15 minutes from seeing the smoke, we started getting, the fire trucks were pulling up and down the street, loudspeaker telling people to get out. I was on a horse wearing nothing but board shorts and cowboy boots for 23 hours, as not knowing if our house was going to be there when I got back. The idea of wildfires in California, it used to be like it was a one-off thing. Then it was a seasonal thing when the Santa Anas were blowing and it was hot. And then now it's just a thing.
Now it's just a thing. And it's wild is that my where I live is on the east side of Los Angeles, and we're south of Pasadena and everything. So it's always like I would never imagine that it would even happen on this side of town either. It was kind of jarring to see it happen from my backyard last night. So we were able to see like the mountain in full view of like it was all aflames. And then we
Yeah.
to a few transformers exploded on our street, and it's been kind of I've lived here now for almost 11 years. I was born here too. We moved to the East Coast when I was little. I came back, so I had like a full circle moment, but I've been here for a while, and I've experienced wildfires still, Santa Ana winds. It's never been this extreme before. Like I've
Really?
Yeah, it's so strange to be experiencing it like this, I feel. So I'm not used to it. Um, it's like looking out, and my office is in downtown LA. And so I'm looking out to the skyline really, and it's like black at the moment. It's so strange.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because I feel like, you know, we've been talking about changes. It's really interesting. I today, actually, as you and I record this, it's January 8th. So this is going to air later, but as we're recording this, it's January 8th.
Mhm.
And today happens to be the first West Edge Wednesday, where we're publishing the conversations that took place at West Edge back in November.
Oh,
And the first panel, the panel that's being released today, is called The Great Outdoors. And we were talking about wildfires. Like, it's really interesting. This was the subject we were talking about, not, of course, not knowing that yesterday LA was basically going to blow up.
Right. Yeah.
But it's just, it's a thing. It's a regular thing. I'm curious, as a designer, how do you approach changes? And I'm not just talking exterior environmental changes, because when you have something like this, it affects the indoor air quality, it
Right.
affects products, it affects pets. You have your dog there with you, who's would you say, a shaky mess?
He's a shaky mess right now.
Yeah.
A carpet sample out on my desk for him so he could relax a little. So if I could turn the camera, he's just lounging.
Yeah,
But
but how do you, as a designer, you affect so much through the work that you do, and now you have to take into account all of these changes in the environment.
yeah, it's nuts. The trend and every, the climate of it all, no pun intended. It's all changing. It's ever changing. I'm working with now a lot of clients who are very conscious about these kinds of things, and we are too as a firm. It's something I'm very, very passionate about, and because it's been coming to light a lot more because of a lot of our projects are in Los Angeles, especially on the west side. We actually do have one project in the Palisades right now that is affected. So it's kind of it's jarring to think that, we work on a lot of the interiors, of course. That's my main focus. The exterior portions of what we do haven't come to fruition yet, but I feel like now the landscape of that will be changing. I think from where I'm standing, it's starting as small as, like, can we choose more, you know, can we be more conscious about the materials we're choosing in our home now? And can we be more forward thinking about using and specifying things that are more natural and more just friendlier to the earth? That a lot of our projects we did work on last year were attuned more towards that narrative, and I'm very here for it. Even the project, actually, speaking of, and the one that is in the Palisades, we were trying to be more um, we were trying to be more eco-friendly in the sense that everything we wanted to source was either second, like vintage or secondhand. It was just coming from a place that was loved before, and we just wanted to give it new life. And that was really the theme of what we were designing. So everything was very intentional in that way. And I think that it's the word that I keep coming back to in the last year and even in this year coming up as well, that we just want to be more intentional and less. I'm never about being trendy. I'm trying to be a bit more that it makes sense for the end user all the time and for years and years to come. So it's I mean, the turn of events that's happening right now, it's really putting the light on a lot of things at the moment.
It's interesting too, because since before the pandemic, but really the pandemic changed the way people think about design and architecture in meaningful, real ways. And I think it kind of served as an accelerator
Yeah.
to some of the ideas that were taking place before. Now, you attended FIT in New York,
Yes.
and I'm curious, the education that you get in fashion, even education at interior design programs, they don't prepare designers for the things that you have to deal with.
No, at all. I did go to FIT. I received my bachelor's in interior design from there, and it was a great school. But yeah, you're right. I always tell this too to my younger designers, my interns. You're not going to learn what you're learning in school is fine. It's the basics and it's the foundation. I loved when I went to school. Um, but when I started working, it was when I felt like I really started learning. I did not pick up any of the skills that I honestly use now every day until I landed my first job, even my first internship, if you will. So it's like the real world experience of it all, talking to clients, managing their budgets, even that's all part of it. Learning about how to be more intentional, that just comes with the experience and with the job. And I think that's something that school just does not equip you for. And even though we do touch on what it means to be more forward thinking or eco-friendly or things like that in school, it still doesn't really mean that much until you kind of get into someone in the residential sector, at least into someone's home. And what does that mean to that person? So it's really funny when I am approached with this question because we do work with a lot of interns here too, and I have a I've had worked with a lot of younger designers, whether in my own firm or in others, and it's just it's an interesting perspective that you start gaining as you start working.
And how has that, especially on days like today, right? And here's where I'm going with this. I think in the past, the perception of interior design, designers, landscape architecture,
Yeah.
I think all of it was seen more as making pretty things and making things pretty and making it beautiful and making it exotic or making it minimalist or maximalist or whatever someone's style was. But it feels to me like the true nature of design is really starting to come out, where people are realizing this is about, like, the function part is so much more important to people than
Oh,
the
yeah.
form part. They're almost on equal
They are.
pedestals now.
Yeah, they completely are. And that's always been my what do you call it? Like my purpose when it comes to design. And again, design in people's homes. So we mainly specialize in residential. I work in a lot of homes here in LA and some out of the city as well. And from the get-go, I've always prioritized function, and aesthetic is adjacent to that. It's like you can't be in your home. A lot of the times the homes that I am designing are their main homes. And it's like you can't be in a home where you don't feel comfortable in. And it's a bonus at that point if it's really pretty and if it's like really just visually pleasing. But what is like why invest in so much of their money and your money to live in a home that just feels like a museum? So it's like we try to strike that balance between how do we make a foam feel very functional, very comfortable? Comfy is always the word that comes to all of our clients' minds and our minds too. And how do you mix that with just investment pieces, investment decor, the wall treatments and everything? How do you all make that very just visually pleasing? So that's always the challenge, and that's a very good challenge at that. And I think that's where my heart tends to sing when I could find that right formula that works for that specific homeowner and their family, because no one wants to come home, yeah, again, and feel like, oh, I can't really touch this, or I'm like, everything's too precious. I try not to make anything feel that way even, it's like they should want to show everything off and still enjoy the home with their family and their friends, and everything should be usable. And if not, it's like there should be a solution for it to be maintained well. So that's always things I'm thinking about, where everything just, yeah, doesn't have to feel so precious, and if there are solutions for how to take care of things properly too.
Yeah, well, but listen, at the same time, I think we're on the precipice of a next generation of design. I think we're already actually entering that, which is certain things that have to be taken into account, like the outdoors, like when there's a fire. I'm in Tulsa, so here in January today, we were in the midst of this winter event where
Right.
it's not snowing yet. It's just incredibly cold. So it's super cold, but also it's interesting. So it's 20 degrees outside, feels like 15, and there's a 10% humidity. In the summer,
Right.
when it's 90 degrees at 70% humidity, what that does to material,
Right.
what that does to a house, what that does to everything, it's materially changed, no pun intended. But also there's safety and security that people are starting to think about more and more now, and it's not about necessarily home alarms. I'm curious, these other ideas, these concepts that we might call design adjacent, how do you handle them as the designer, and do you incorporate that as part of the services offered?
Oh yeah, completely. I think a lot of people do. A lot of my clients, that I get to work with that do approach us, really love us for our aesthetic. I tend to design spaces that are a bit, more vibrant than what is considered trendy nowadays. I love to infuse color, and I love to infuse material and texture where I can, because that just is, I think it just makes a room feel so alive. Um, so it's always, on the forefront for me when we are designing a space or an entire home, where it's like, how can we give this room a personality, still make it functional, and still make it comfy for our clients. So it's a very it's a natural thing at this point, because it's almost like, again, I think, our clients appreciate us for what we do. And so they're looking for that type of look too. And, they're trying to avoid the white walls of it all, or the gray walls. And, they're trying to, yeah, again, like, how do we mix function with form?
And speaking of that, and you mentioned trends, and I'm happy that you did. So again, it's beginning of the year, and I am in the midst of writing and railing on, I do this every year. It's like Groundhog Day. It's the craziest thing. Every year, here are the trends you're going to be seeing next year. Here's what's going away next year. It's all BS. It's like none of it makes any sense to me.
And it's funny because, like, I don't like to look at those things. It's like, it's just whatever makes you happy. I think with anyone, and that's what makes every client unique. Everyone always asks us, what is your signature style? And I'm like, it's my clients, it's their signature style. I put my filter on it with them, and we figure it out together. Not every house has to look the same, and I don't want it to. Not every project needs to be so formulaic either. So it's like, trends for me are, some things can stick, and maybe some things can stay, but it's nothing that I'm actively looking for. It's really like, maybe a client of mine traveled somewhere and they're like, I want to incorporate this like thing that I saw. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Let's figure that out and like make that happen. So it's always like conversations like that where I really draw inspiration from. And I think that's just the best way to approach design also.
I totally agree with you. I'm curious though, do you find, and when I say I'm railing on it, I really do. I write it into a lot of the work that I do on posts, just because I think it's disingenuous to the industry. And I think it's pure clickbaity material. And unfortunately, it's put out by some of the bigger names in our industry. And I find that, and listen, I'm not faulting them for it, but the reason I don't like it is because I think I love designers. I love design. I love the work that you do. And that's kind of what I love to showcase. And I feel like if someone says, well, the white kitchen is out every year. And by the way, it's the funniest thing. The white kitchen is on both lists every year.
Every year.
Every year.
Yeah.
White kitchens are going to be huge. White kitchens are going to be out. It's on the same list every year. And it's bogus, because as long as there is a client that wants a white kitchen, there are designers that are going to provide it.
Exactly. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with that, yeah, at all. I think it's just it's a preference thing. People want what they want, and at the end of the day, they're paying you to get what they want, and that's fine. You're there to really honor that. And if you're not the right fit, then no, there's someone who will be able to do that for them too. It's like, nothing's wrong here. It's like, everything can be achievable. We can make it look beautiful, and we can make it look good. It's like nothing needs to be on a list of some sort. I'm on the same page as you. I don't really tend to read those kinds of things, but it is funny because, like, you will see opposite things always on every publication of some sorts. It's so interesting.
Yeah, but I bring it up because you mentioned something that I want to drill down on a little bit, and it's really funny. When I started doing the show, I would ask some designers, like, what's your signature style? It's not a stupid question. It's just pedestrian. It's not
Right.
there's nothing to it. It's like, well, if you know the work, then you know that I don't have a signature style. But that's not true. Many designers have a signature style. Like, they will, and by the way, I want to ask you about this because I believe you worked with Kelly Wersler. Look, Kelly has a very signature, distinct look, aesthetic, and feel. And there's nothing wrong with that. She's done remarkable with it. But if someone's looking for something different than what she offers, you're probably going to look for another designer. But I've always felt that the real superpower of designers is not in having a signature style, but it is like I forgot the word you mentioned for it, but I've always called it your filter, but I've always called it a fingerprint. Like I think if you look at someone's work, you can see fingerprints, you can see indicators, markers, identifiers that this is the designer who did this work, regardless of style. Do you feel like you have identified what your fingerprint is?
Yeah, and funny you mentioned that too. It's always like whenever I do photo shoots with our projects when they're finished, I work with the same photographer Tina, and she's mentioned it to me time and again because she's photographed so many amazing designers around town here too. And every time she comes and sees me, she's always like, "I always know when it's your project." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And so it's like for me, I always need to have, I mentioned I always need to have color infused in some form, and it's very loud. It's always like the forefront, the main character of the space. So our rooms, no matter what, it's going to have some sort of main color focus, and then everything surrounding it will have a natural material or two. It's usually stone, from the earth. It's never anything synthetic that I would choose, and it's always paired with something that feels warm, like a nice natural wood. So it's like that's kind of like where my fingerprint comes into play, where it's like texture and color in the most natural form are just like very embodied in every space that I do tend to do. Um, we tend to always stay with the same, at least I've noticed that I tend to stay with the same color palettes here and there. I am trying to venture out. So even though I do say I'm like, I love color, I tend to choose like very like variances of blues and greens, like jewel tones, deep reds and things like that. I really try to go for that big pop of bold. Um, and then, the more neutral part of it all is like very subdued. It's more of an accent at that point. So that's kind of where I feel like my fingerprint, if you will, is like that's how my work comes across to other people.
When you were working with Kelly
Mhm.
and for the firm, did you feel, again, it's not a shot, did you feel like you were in a box though, where you had to make it work against the style versus the style working against your skills?
That's a great question. It was a learning curve when I first started there. I worked. She was my first when I first moved here from New York. That was my first job in Los Angeles. I was a senior designer on her team, and it was everything I felt like I've known up to that point went out the window. It was like I thought I knew design, and I did from like the technical sense. I feel very strong in my technical background, but then when it came to like really designing, I felt like I learned a brand new skill set and I learned a brand new form of design. And it was hard in the beginning. I felt like it went against everything that I thought I knew at that point. Because even prior to working with her, I did work with many other firms too, and she really opened my eyes to what it meant to push the space to its max, well, like its max form. And it's something I've never taken it for granted, even when I was there. It was like such an amazing learning experience to see how her mind worked and how she was able to mix palettes and textures, colors that you would just never expect together. And I feel like for me, when I worked on one of my first residential projects with her, and that house felt so phenomenal. Like when it was finished, it was like I would have never done this myself. So I was I'm a very, for me, like I'm a very good student in the way that I take in, I absorb, I really just, sat next to her and like just had her, she took the reins and I followed her. And that's sort of like the way I really tried to learn with her because it was her firm, it's her aesthetic. I need to really hone my skills to be more attuned to what she's really looking for. So it was all about, she was very keen on like training your eye. And that was a skill I was able to develop, still developing, frankly, with her while I was working with her, because she really had eagle eyes for certain materials and certain pieces of furniture, things like that. Um, so yeah, in a nutshell, it was very interesting. It was very hard. And I feel like it's a skill I'm still trying to always develop, because I don't ever feel like I could push the envelope as far as she can. Obviously, she has her own style, but working with her at the time, it was like, okay, I just need to like really think so far ahead and not pull back, or not feel like I need to confine myself in a box when I was there. So it was really cool.
So coming full circle and bringing it home, how are you as, and it's funny, it's a clumsy question, but how are you as a learner? I feel like every skilled creative today
Hmm.
has to continue to learn because there's new technologies,
Oh
there's
yeah.
new products, there's new materials, there's new there's new applications, there's new services. And nowadays, you as a designer, head
Mm.
of a firm, are responsible. You have to promote the firm. You're a marketer. You
Yes.
have to go sell your services. You're a sales rep. You still have to be lead creative and visionary. So you're the futurist. You've got employees. You're a boss.
Mhm.
And I bring all this up because I feel like, as I said, the industry is changing so rapidly, and I'm always astounded to hear how creatives like you are adapting and changing to new circumstances.
Yeah, that's a great point too. It's a role I'm very honored, and it's hard to play. But it's with the landscape of it all, with everything changing so much. I am an avid learner. That's one thing I love to constantly do and immerse myself in, no matter what subject it is. I will put my head down and really try to observe and absorb and like really understand what's going on. To follow the trends of technology, I think is so important. I think because it's the future and it's what's going to happen. If we ignore it, then we're just going to be digging ourselves in a hole. So even with the programs we use, I try to make sure, at least at this point, that my team and I are up to date with it. If not, then I'm proactive in having everybody here on my team learn what needs to be, or what is going to be industry standard at some point. Even with AI and with how that is emerging, I have been, diving deep into the depths of what that means, because I do feel like I do feel like it's going to be beneficial to us in a way. I am not afraid of it. About a lot of people, were very skeptical because everyone thinks it might be taking jobs of some form away, but I honestly think in truth it won't. It's really a tool that people can use at this point to help us really visualize and put together, themes or schematics, or even concepts, if you will. So I've actually used it to my benefit, to like help me if I'm having trouble visualizing it. I have used AI to help me formulate the words that are in my head to see if a picture can even form. So like I do feel like there is potential in that. And even with running the business of it all, the chat GBTs, the Geminis of it have been so beneficial, and even just helping me with like the most basic business type questions, especially if it's legal or if it's with my employee, like with HR, because I am running the show by myself. And it's so sometimes I need to externally rely on like other factors that are available to me at this point. So it's kind of like I what I try to do at least is just embrace what's coming and see, try everything out. I never not want to be ignorant to what's, eventually going to happen. So my process is, at least, is just to like pick and see what I feel like is really going to be useful. And then from the more analog perspective, I feel like I like to travel a lot. My husband and my daughter and we tend to at least go somewhere twice a year. So it's like, from even just like that perspective, like traveling around the world, seeing how other people live, that in itself is such a huge learning moment for me always, because I get to understand that there are other materials available around the world. There are other vendors even I get to meet, and like the accessibility factor of what can be sourced elsewhere is so huge for me, because I do actively seek that out. And it's like something I'm very conscious about when I am out and about too. So a plethora of things I like. I'm just a student of like what the world is trying to offer us, and I'm just trying to really embrace that at this point.
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny, back to your original point. I think I think that you're correct. People are not going to lose their jobs or their projects to
Mm.
AI.
No,
They're going to lose their jobs and their projects to other creatives who
yes.
know how to use AI.
Correct, correct. It's been so like, I really do think it's such a huge benefit to us now. Like, I'm even, I haven't personally done it, but like a lot of my colleagues who also run their own businesses are using AI for marketing, for social media posts. It's like it's so beneficial for even that now. So it's like, yeah, you just have to figure out how to really make it work for you. Because I always say, a lot of people were scared initially of like seeing people would send them prompts like, hey, I want my living room to look like this. And then I guess an AI rendering would be shown to them of what can happen, but like, can they really execute that? No. It's like you still need someone like us or another independent designer to really help you project manage that and like really help you source for those pieces. So it's almost like, yeah, you get the picture, but it's not really going to happen in the way that you're probably thinking. So I feel like there's like there's a balance to it all.
Sourcing in the real life, in the real world, rather. Tell me,
Yeah.
so what trips do you take? What shows do you, not personal, but business wise, what shows do you attend?
Mm.
Do you have a regular series? Do you rotate them? How do you manage the show circuit?
Yeah. I've only started going to shows in the last few years. So recently I went to my second High Point Market show this past October, which was amazing. It's a super big whirlwind because I'm only there for about 2 days. Um, but I usually take one of my designers with me so we could also spend quality time together and just see what's out in the market. It's been so amazing for me because like every show we have come back from, I feel like a lot of the products we get to see and the vintage that we get to see, it's almost like it's we automatically get them sourced out to a project almost right away. So it's so cool. This was our second West Edge, that we gotten to do and gotten to attend, and that in itself was really amazing, especially because it was local for us as well. Those are the two main ones I've been circulating. I've only been to one show abroad, and that was in Tokyo, and would love to go back to that one again because I've never obviously design internationally is such a different beast, but to see it in a show like that was so eye-opening, and I want to explore more of that. I did happily stumble upon like Zurich Design Week when I was in Switzerland a year and a half ago, so it was kind of like, okay, this has to be more of a thing for me.
You are listening to my conversation with Lauren Reyes Lim of LVR Studios, and we'll be right back. The most important word in the design industry today is service. Product, incredibly important. Price, important. Selection, incredibly important. But stellar service is the premier idea that can make all the difference in the success of any project. This is how design professionals like you demand great service for your projects. And you get your favorite brands in one place with expert, knowledgeable, and non-commissioned professionals to help you specify the right product for each of your projects and get the best price. Non-commissioned, that is incredibly important. And at Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company, that means their only incentive is your satisfaction. Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company, has just that with over 60 years of service in Southern California. Pacific Sales is your destination for exploration, advice, inspiration, all the best brands, great prices, the best in the industry when it comes to service, and you know it's reliable. You know that you are going to get predictable results, reliable results every time. And now you have the Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home team to help you with their Pro Rewards program, which is a trade program unlike any you've ever experienced before. Earn 3% in Best Buy e-gift cards or 2.5% in a reward check for every qualified and delivered sale, in addition to special trade pricing, exclusive offers, access to exclusive special events, and so much more that I can't even begin to try and list it all here. And here's the cherry on top. Access to exclusive builder trade incentives from top brands and the stellar service you deserve from a company that has been serving the industry for over 60 years. Now, terms and conditions apply to the Pro Rewards program and builder trade incentives. So visit a Pacific sales expert at a showroom today for full details and learn how you can unlock additional savings and benefits. Don't miss out on the opportunity to work with the best of the best. Visit Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home today and elevate your projects to new heights. The Design Hardware Showroom is a space where specifiers can go and find an incredible selection of high-end faucets, luxury tile, natural stone, wood floors, and bespoke hardware, and so much more. Select products are presented in a holistic manner, strategically arranged to stimulate creativity and transition your vision from the conceptual stage to a fully realized space. You will find everything you're looking for, even the products by brands you didn't know you didn't know. Surprise and delight. Am I right? All under one roof on 3rd Street in Los Angeles, just up the street from the Grove. Conveniently located, free parking available. Stop by to find inspiration, collect samples, get expert advice, and tackle everything on your specification list all in one place. Visit them online at designhardware.com, at Design Hardware and Flooring on the socials, or in the real world, 6053 West 3rd Street in Los Angeles. Do you attend KBIS?
I did. Oh, sorry, that is one I did forget. I did attend KBIS last February as well.
Will you be going again this year?
I intend to, yes.
Okay. We'll definitely stay in touch because I'll be speaking there this year.
Oh, okay.
And I'm having some folks sort of go around the show. And it's not style spotting per se, but it's like finding what is really working for them. It's so funny because like a High Point or a KBIS, they are so big and they're so vast, and it is so hard to get to everything. You have to be a really good planner to do that.
Oh my gosh, I thought High Point was very overstimulating, but then when I went to KBIS, because we only went for the day, actually, I wish we could have stayed overnight because that would have been a lot better. But like when we went for the day, I remember finding myself at the Kohler showroom because theirs was really big. They had a lot of seating, and I just sat there in a daze for like maybe 30 minutes. I was just like, what's happening?
Just decompress.
Like I needed to really decompress, and I was like, this is insane. I feel like because there's so much sound and there's a lot of people, and I think because they have the builders convention coupled with KBIS, like so many people. So it's like different groups of people I wasn't really even used to seeing in a market. So it was kind of like that was a lot. We went to a really nice restaurant after, and I was like, I just need like 2 glasses of wine and a lot of food, and like I need to go home. That's kind of how it felt at that end of that show.
It's funny. I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, first year back after COVID, KBIS coincided. So at the same time, you had Market, KBIS, Surfaces show, and I think there was like a tile show, or there was something else at the same. There were 4 shows going on at the same time in Las Vegas, and it was just one of those things where it was just the input overload was ridiculous.
I can imagine. It feels like chaos, like a really beautiful way of looking at chaos because it's like all pretty things.
Yeah. It's funny. My theme, my mantra this year is remain focused and above the chaos, because for other reasons, but with these shows, it's one of those things too. How do you, through your office, through the firm, how do you specify, not how do you specify, but how do you learn about new products and materials? Is that a regular part of the studio? How do you navigate that?
Yeah, it is. I am, and funny you're saying this because I had a thought last week where I wanted to really be more on top of it this year. We regularly, and it goes both ways too, but our vendors, ask us all the time if they can come do presentations in our offices. We do lunch and learns quite a lot, actually. And so whenever I do get an inquiry from a vendor I've worked with, whether recently or in the past, I'm always inviting them in. I have, either our junior or our intern just coordinated that time. And had their product brought in, and then we've met so many amazing people and seen so many amazing materials, and things like that of that way. So that's typically how I think the more organic way to do it. I love doing that personally because I get to put a face to the name of like the person I get to work with, and so that's very important to me to build that relationship too. So normally that's what we'll do, and then if we want to sort of see what else is out there, it'll be a field trip to the PDC building here in Los Angeles. We'll kind of get to see what's on the market now that way, and then through the shows as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting too, because I realized, here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there's a ton of design taking
Amazing.
place. But what's really interesting is there is no design center.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go to a real design center, you have Dallas, but that's 4 hours away.
Yeah, so your designers have to travel.
So designers, and it's funny, I think they lean in more heavily on the shows and events.
That makes sense, of course. I mean, we do from the product standpoint, from the furniture, that's really where we see a lot of the newer stuff come in anyway. I feel like for a lot of the smaller, not smaller, but like I think more material, if it's more finished based, and that's when it is, I think, a bit easier to have these lunch and learns and to meet with these vendors. But yeah, for furniture, you have to see it too, because a lot of the time our clients will be like, well, you're proposing a sofa to me, but how does it sit? How does that feel? Everyone's very particular about the seat. And so it's like, if I could even go and test that for them, even better. So for furniture, I feel like that's always what I feel like market is very important for at this point.
Yeah, well, and it's funny too, because that's sort of you go to Salone,
Mm,
and you can see all of these wonderful Italian brands, and you can see new materials, and then you come back to the States, and it's like, okay, that was great, but now how do I get it?
yeah,
How do I specify it into a project? And then what's the delivery going to be like? Is it, what if there's a problem? What if there's an issue? Because I mean, not that there would ever be a problem on a design project. There's never any problems. Like
no.
everything always shows up perfect, right?
It's funny, when I worked with actually, my I forgot, but like one of my junior designer just went to the show in Paris this past September. So we had a conversation literally like this too, where it's like we saw Maze, she came back with so much amazing product, and it was like, okay, well, how do we get this here?
Yeah. Well, and it's a part of that. Where I was going with that is after West Edge, talking to so many designers and architects and realizing that, and you can say this is not true in your world, but that service is so important now. It's almost, it feels like it's more important than it has been in the past.
It's always been actually one of the big things I focus on. I emphasize it with my team. I mean, with interior design really is a service-based business. At the forefront, that's what it always will be. The clients and their happiness, frankly, are top, top of the list of many things. So how do we get things to happen for them in the most efficient manner? That's always question number one. And like, things will arise, issues will arise, but like you always should come to them with a solution, never with like a, well, I don't know, kind of thing. So um Kelly actually really emphasized that for me when I was working with her. She always made that sure of everyone in her firm, and that really opened my eyes, especially in residential, because these are people's livelihoods that we're working with. It's like that has to be prioritized no matter what. So we're going to get things done, and we're going to get it done no matter what for our clients. That's just always the way for us.
Yeah, but it's more than that. It's so I remember last March, I think it was, when Perch imploded,
Hmm.
and all of a sudden you had all of these designers who, many of which invested their own money in product. Then they have their clients who have invested their money in product. Then all of a sudden doors are locked, you can't go in, you can't find someone, you don't know where your $40,000 worth of appliance packages are, you don't know where anything is, you're not getting any information. It's terrifying, it's frustrating, and it's not an isolated incident. Laurel and Wolf, before that, there are other examples of this in the industry. And I think that ultimately, don't those responsibilities kind of fall on you? How
Mhm.
do you vet your partners? How do you know who you're working with, and how do you kind of suss out any potential problems?
Oh my God, that's a really good question. I mean, and we've run into issues of similar this, thankfully not like the Perch event, though I know many of my friends who were affected by that. And it's funny, I'm very now choosy, more so than before, of who we work with. I even have it so much outlined in our agreements with our clients that like things like this, are out of our power if something were to happen, but we will always try to find the best solution possible to move forward. It's like I could only protect myself so much if something were to happen on that side. But to answer your question, with how do we choose our vendors, I ask a million questions. Like it there's a project actually we're working on right now in Palm Springs, and we're ways away from it being out, but we just specified, tens of thousands of dollars from Ferguson. And my first question was like, well, what happens if, like, I'm sure my rep Priscilla, she was very sweet about it, but I was just like, well, what happens if it shows up? Because we ordered everything like from the beginning, so it's gonna be months before it shows up to site, and it's basically just sitting in a warehouse now. I was trying to make sure we can order it before inflation, came about, like where the prices jump, and it's like I got ahead of it, but now it's just sitting in a warehouse, and it's almost like, well, what's going to happen if we install it? It's not working. What's going to happen if you like come on site and it dings up one of the dings up the wood floor? Like so many of these things are actively running through my mind. And I think as long as the vendor is willing to really answer all those questions and then is proactive in helping me find solutions already, that's the type of people I like to work with. Because if they're already off bat saying, well, it's not really my problem, I don't want to work with you. And so I need to work with people who are just as solution oriented as me, who the customer service level is at least on par with what I'm seeking, because it's just not going to work out. And I think from a basic perspective too, if like we're willing to throw bones for each other, because I have relationships with my vendors like that at this point, that's the people I wanted to like really hone a relationship with anyway. So, I actively work. I've been working with the same vendors, custom millworkers and fabricators, same sales reps now for almost 10, 11 years. And that those relationships have been something that I'm very, very attuned to. I very much, want to keep for the long run. And so I feel like those when I see a good egg, like I just keep that in my pocket, and I don't try to gatekeep them either. I spill their name out to everybody I know, because that just helps our industry boom even better when there are more people like that too.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you had also mentioned the T word. Uh, Tariffs are gonna be a thing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's gonna be, you know, it's interesting because it's not going to be an overnight issue. It's going to be an elongated issue,
Mhm.
and it's going to change a lot. And I'm curious, how do you have that conversation with your clients? It's so interesting, isn't it? You have this bifurcated conversation. On one side, you're talking about aspirations and dreams and desires and uses and usefulness and purpose and function. And on the other side, you're having this conversation about cost and investment and longevity and sustainability and product, reliability. And oh, it's exhausting just trying to explain it. How do you separate these two ideas into one concept?
Another really good question. From the get, with a lot of our projects, we do budget management. It's actually what I'm really strong at. I've been, an active project manager in my own firm and in past roles for many years. And so this question, it comes up a lot, and it's almost like it's a fine dance with our clients on how to have them separate money from like what they're really dreaming about. It's There is a talent, I think, or an art at least, with how to talk about it, because some clients are just not receptive, especially as a first time. If this is the first time that they're doing this too, you have to really be delicate about it in a way. And so I've learned to at least develop a talking skill with where we really approach the budget in baby steps, or the costs of things in baby steps. So just not to overwhelm them. And with the clients who are more seasoned in doing this, or either, I think there's still an art in even talking about that as well. So it's almost like you kind of just have to strike that balance in a way with, especially if costs are rising, and like, how do we, I mentioned, how do we sign off on something now so that in 2 months even, it's like they're not going to be like, well, why was this 15% more? What you had proposed to me back then was a lot less, and I didn't budget for that. So I try to get ahead of these things where we sign off on a budget together. That's almost step number one after we sign off on an agreement and on the floor plan. And then I they never like these meetings, but it's so necessary for me. But I set a budget meeting with them and with the floor plan, and we literally go line by line together and assign numbers and values to each and every piece, even if it's a coffee table book, like even if it's a very small rug. It's like that to me helps guide me so that we can avoid the surprises. Even if things do jump in cost and price in the future, let's at least stay to where we were starting at, because no one wants to have that hard conversation at the end or in the middle, even, where it's like, what happened here? And I would hate that too from the other side of it. So more than not, we do a really good job of trying to stay within the boundaries and the confines of like where the client would comfortably like to be. And more often than not, clients, especially along the process, tend to get very excited once they start seeing things come to fruition. So usually it's good news for us, or they will be traveling or something, and they'll see like what quality it really, really does mean to them. So it's always like an ever-changing thing, but at the basis of it, I try to honor their spend. I've worked with many, many amazing individuals, some whose net worths I could only dream about, and like they're the most budget conscious people on the planet. So it's almost like, and why they love working with me too is because they know I'm not out for their money. It's like they know that I'm looking out in their best interest, and I'm only going to recommend things that make sense. But
Well, and listen, they got super wealthy because of that.
for a reason, yeah, and I mean, I see it's taught me a lot too about money management in that way, but it's like, it's very
Yeah.
interesting because a lot of people think the opposite, right? They think they see this person and they're like, well, why wouldn't they spend X amount on da, da, da? And I'm like, well, that's not their priority. They obviously like want something, but they don't want to spend like $10,000 on a coffee table. Some clients do, this one doesn't. So it's like, it's like neither here nor there. It really depends.
And I've seen this trend, and I want your take on this. This trend where budgetary increases are flowing more readily to performative items as
Mhm.
opposed to non-performative items.
Oh
So,
yeah,
for example, the $40,000 sofa,
right.
is I can. That's why I think that's why dupes have gotten as popular as they have, right?
Complete.
Because people clients will attribute a value to an object
Mhm.
without sitting in it, without seeing if it's comfortable or not comfortable. They'll just there. But when you get to something performative like a kitchen that isn't based on a triangle, it's based on zones, where you've got the combustion steam oven, and you've got a range that's both induction and a gas outlet, that you've got a refrigerator, you've got a coffee station, you've got just all of these
Mhm.
different performative elements to a space. Have you seen that? Do you see that trend as well?
Oh, completely. And it's like that is always where the biggest spend tends to happen. And I think rightfully so. Like that's where you should be investing in amazing appliances and materials that, can withstand all of your kitchen prep. And like even in the primary bathroom, like that should also be, so that's also where a lot of investment tends to go on that end. They want nicer marble or nicer materials and things that just feel just luxurious at that point, in their space. And they will tend to forego the living room sofa, like you mentioned, and that's fine. I think like things are ever changing, but what the meat of your home is going to be the kitchen, the bathroom, even your bedroom. And so people my clients, at least, like they are prioritizing, well, I want to make this like the best kitchen ever because I'm going to be using it every day. And that's really what it comes down to. It's like I ask them, do you cook every, like it's always part of our pre-planning process. It's like, do you cook every day, or who does cook? And if you do, how do you need your kitchen laid out? I had a meeting with one of my clients where we actually sat down and actually programmed each and every drawer of hers and cabinet, because she was very specific about the way she cooks in her kitchen. And I really love that. That was really, really cool that we got to do that. And even in their bar too. So it's like those are really the things that will matter, because you're going to live with that. No one wants to change that. And even 15 years, no one wants to change that, because if it's done right, it's done right. If it's done, and if it's built well, it will last forever, I think, until the next person comes and moves in. But even then, you hope not. So spaces like that actually really, really make me happy, because we get to really understand like how the client likes to live. And so I understand the psychology of it better.
Yeah. Are you also seeing the expansion of certain spaces? For example, the indoor kitchen,
Hmm.
the outdoor kitchen juxtaposed against the indoor kitchen. An outdoor kitchen used to be what, if it was really fancy, you had the brick fireplace with the grill inset, or just the Weber out there with a garden hose, and that was considered, a barbecue outdoor cooking area. That was a long time ago. Do you find that your clients are asking you to extend their indoor kitchen to an outdoor kitchen, or, for example, how you can take appliances now and
Hmm.
put them into bathrooms, where you'll have a warming drawer for towels, and taking the towel rack off the wall, or having refrigeration in there for makeup, GLP-1s,
Yeah.
and cool water to make it more spa-like. Are you seeing that?
There wasn't, we had an uptick of a lot of outdoor kitchen design in the last few years. So it was something that I only started doing recently, and we've gotten into really understanding, what that means for the outdoors, how to have something maintained. It's funny, I had a client who was he more or less was in the food business, but he wanted his outdoor kitchen because he didn't want to do any frying inside his house. So, like to really research and source like what that even meant for an outdoor kitchen, the extension of his indoor kitchen. Um, in terms of like how we're interchanging any materials or appliances of that sort, not yet. I would say I feel like bathrooms are still there. There's a whole thing for bathrooms, and there's a whole thing still for kitchens. I would say though, a lot of my clients are inputting what do you call it? I see an uptick of like having beverage fridges installed now in a lot of bedrooms, so right outside the bathroom. So that's something we've been actually integrating a lot of, and they're hidden, they're panel ready and they're hidden, so you don't really know that there's one in there, but that's kind of like what we have been noticing too.
It's funny, this idea of hiding things, I think, is just so fun. I toured a design house once, and I went into the kitchen, and I couldn't find anything.
No, everything is panel ready now. I'm here for it. I like it. Don't panel ready is like, unless your beverage fridge has glass in front of it so you could see what you're getting, but everything else is just hidden like cabinetry.
How do you see in the few minutes that we have left, how do you see your firm advancing, your brand extensions in the future? For example, we talk about the difference between indoor kitchen and an outdoor kitchen. Do you stop at the patio? Do you stop at the exterior, or do you take your services into the exterior as well? If you don't do it now, do you envision yourself doing that in the future, or do you work cooperatively with a landscape architect because you just don't want to do the outside? Do you see yourself expanding into any new territories?
Uh, Good question. Yeah, a bit of both. If they want us involved in the exterior, I'm very happy to do it. That's the first question I do always ask. Though, is like, do you have a landscape designer or architect involved? Because it does make my job easier from even that planning perspective, because I can come in more as a consultant really for any exterior work. And what I can at least do is help plan out where their outdoor furniture can go, and their outdoor kitchen too, because that's still my job. That's still my scope. And I think when I can work in collaboration with another party, that makes the process a lot more fun for me, and a lot just more seamless for the client as well. So it's happened, a few times there and back. We've done it more ways than one. I feel like, for my firm and how I'm hoping to expand is that we can start doing more commercial work or even some hospitality. I would love to manifest that in some way. My background a lot before I came to LA was in hospitality and commercial. I worked on so many hotels and so many stores, boutique stores and things like that. So would love to kind of open the door back up to that again. We're actually doing our first commercial project in a long time this month. And so that kind of ignited a fire that I felt was a little dim for a while. And it kind of was like, well, this would be fun to really, really come back into again. So that's kind of where my mind is heading at right now.
You know what's funny is one of the things I often do, usually towards the end, is manifest design, where we talk about sort of like, what's a project you've never worked on before or haven't in a while that you would really like to do? Let's manifest that. You've already done that. So
Mhm.
now, and I rarely, if ever, get the chance to ask this question, but knowing that that's something that you're already doing, you're already manifesting, you're already putting it out there. Now there's the practical application of manifestation. Like, how do you actually go out and get it?
Yeah.
Do you, it's funny. I'm asking the question because I had a conversation a few months back with a designer in Manhattan Beach who went to a restaurateur that she saw was starting to work, that she heard was going to be doing a redesign on this restaurant. She put a plan together without being requested. She went and took it to the owner and said, like, heard you're doing this. Here's what you should do. She got the job. It was amazing. I'm just curious, do you do that, or how do you activate that manifestation?
That's a really good idea. I should do some more things like that because it's
Right?
like, why not? And like, I truly love my job. It's really a passion of mine. And so to do something like that would just be more fun for me than anything. But I mean, if we wanted to get more business like or more technical about it, like the way I started to do that was to start cold calling like hospitality groups, developers, people that I know who work in the sectors. I've been slowly, putting myself out there, letting them know that, hey, we're interested. I'm interested. My firm is equipped to work on a project of this size. Keep us in mind. And so I feel like I'm playing the long haul with some of my contacts, but that's kind of just like what I feel like, because that's actually how I got started, not to take up so much time, but when I wanted to branch out on my own initially, I was like, I really want to do my own project. I really want to help someone out with their own home. I literally put that out there, and within like a few days, it came back to me, and then I started the firm. So I'm like, that can just be where I start at the most basic level, and then I kind of expand and market from there. So I'm hoping that it catches in some form in the next few months, years, whatever. But it's a dream of mine I'm having.
Isn't that interesting? And I will just sort of wrap it up with this to say, the majority of my career was in broadcast, and
I
I
know.
I did I did sales,
Mhm.
and I think most, if not everyone that I've ever spoken to, hates sales. Just, you could be really good at it,
Yeah.
but it's not fun putting oneself out there. Isn't it interesting? Like, if I'm putting myself in your shoes, I would prefer to put my creative work in front of people as opposed to putting myself in front of people saying, hey, would you hire me for it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not fun. It's
No,
not.
no. It takes a really type of person skill to do that. And
Yes.
very, I don't know if you could tell, I'm very introverted. So like to develop that marketing, whatever I have in me, I feel like I've created my own luck at this point with the clients I do get to work with. But like I'm constantly trying to learn it or constantly trying to develop it. It's like I'm the same. I'd rather be like, here's my portfolio, have a think, and then call me back. Like,
Yeah, it's funny. And the thing about that too is, to a person, I've, like I said, I've never met anyone on the design or architecture side who said, "Oh yeah, I love sales. I love going out and pitching."
yeah.
You love doing the work, and you should, but it's one of those things that you have to keep doing it. And now is the time of year when everyone starts thinking, "Okay, I gotta make this happen. I gotta start doing it." So
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a good fresh start. I feel like everyone last year it felt a little strange last year, but I feel like now this year everyone's coming out of the woodwork now, and it's like the pitching and everything. It started already for us, and so I'm like I put my marketing hat back. I've been having it on, but I really put it on this month, and I'm like,
Are
okay.
you, are you seeing that? Are you seeing that too? That people are finally coming out of that malaise?
Yeah, yeah. It was honestly very quiet the last few quarters. I was very concerned. If I'm going to be completely honest, it has like 2023 and prior it has been very amazing. 2024 came and I'm like, what happened? Even my current clients that I'm working with had to pause a little bit in the middle, and whether it was because of the election, I think it was, or things like that. It was like, okay, I'm not used to this. This is definitely a pattern I need to put a pin on for the future. But then as soon as the holidays came, the inquiries flooded, and January 1st and everything. And then I'm like, okay, this is very strange. So it's a happy, nice problem to have. A lot of them do feel like warm and knock on wood. And so I'm kind of hoping they will come to fruition at some point this year. But yeah, that's kind of what I've noticed already in just the last couple weeks.
I love that. I love that. I love that for you. I love that for the industry. Um, that's awesome. And I look forward to checking back with you. Lauren, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time. This was so much fun.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for meeting with me too. This was so much fun.
Love this. Thank you, Lauren. I'm recharged. I am. Thank you to my incredible partner sponsors, TimberTech, Pacific Sales, and Design Hardware, amazing companies and great friends to both the show and the trade. So please give them an opportunity for your next project. And thank you for listening, subscribing to the show, and sharing it with your friends and colleagues. If you're not already subscribing, please do, so you get every episode automatically to your feed the moment it's published. And reach out. Love to hear from you. Convo by Design at outlook.com and on Instagram at Convo by Design with an X. Until next week, thank you for sharing this time together. Keep those batteries charged. Keep those batteries charged. Until next episode, be well, stay focused, and rise above the chaos. Do your best. You can do it. See you next week.